With Mass Effect 3 turning out to be the shallow run-and-gun third-person shooter we all knew it would be as soon as BioWare announced they were streamlining it, I thought I'd take a moment to look at some of the games that made me think in the past. Granted, it doesn't take much to make me think, but some developers don't even appear to be trying anymore. So here are 3 games off the top of my head that have made me think in various ways. Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars. This game remains my favorite game of all time. Its story, its setting, the mystery, everything about it just fits. One day back in high school, I showed up for history class after having skipped a couple of times, to play video games of course. The teacher demanded that I perform a presentation which I was apparently supposed to prepare for that class. I almost shat myself. I fell completely blank. This was medieval European history. I stood there frozen with about 60 eyes staring at me, and I suddenly remembered the Knights Templar. I proceeded to give a presentation from start to finish, complete with locations of strongholds, names, dates, sociological and political information, all from memory. Memory I picked up from a video game. Now that's powerful tangential learning if I ever heard the term. This is also something developers must bear in mind when designing a game. Luckily, this game has a strong, historically focused plot, and the developers made sure to double-check their facts. Some games, however, just blurt out complete nonsense, leaving the player the more ignorant as a result. Please, developers, make sure you fact-check every single statement if it is supposed to represent reality. We have very absorbent minds. For a long time after playing Age of Empires 2, for example, I believed French throwing axemen hurled huge double-bladed battle axes towards their enemies. Turns out they were mid-sized hatchets. Lula, Sexy Empire, Parts 2 and 3. I was 12 when this game came out. Imagine the impact it had on my newly developed hormonal system. Aside from that, it is a very interesting look into a very controversial industry. The game starts off with you and this girl Lula stranded in a tiny village and the FBI on your heels. You decide to do whatever it takes to get out of there. You take pictures of Lula having sex with various men, blackmailing them with the resulting footage, as well as other devious tricks to raise the funds necessary to buy new identities and get out of there. This first part of the game I don't like, as it seems to imply that this is how people get trapped in the world of pornography, while the fact of the matter is that it's a conscious choice for most. And for some, even a dream. Parts 2 and 3, on the other hand, were an eye-opener for me. In these parts, you build your studio from the ground up, starting with a vacant lot. You manage distribution networks and hire talent. It's essentially a film studio simulator, only with pornography. That industry has suffered a lot of criticism due to its nature, most of which is unfounded. This game made me think about how these films that came to have a regular spot on the viewing schedule of my later teens are made, and caused me to look at both sides of the debate before dismissing the conservative side as agenda-driven horseshit. Lula, Sexy Empire is a prime example of how a seemingly innocent piece of humoristic entertainment can change the way we look at a particular social issue. Machinarium. As a language major, I cannot help but be fascinated with this game. Machinarium is a point-and-click adventure game which follows the adventures of a robot who is dumped in the garbage, has to reassemble himself, make his way to the city, save his girlfriend, and stop the bad guys from blowing everything up. All this without a word ever being spoken. Most point-and-click adventure games have dialogue, and if you pay close attention to it, it'll often hold vital clues as to how to overcome your next challenge. For example, when a character flat out tells you what he needs. The only communication in Machinarium is visual. Some dialogue does take place between characters, but it appears on screen as hieroglyphs. This game shines a bright light on how language works to inform and educate, and it does so by removing it from the equation. If you have not tried this exceptional indie title, you really should. These are just a few of the games that have caused me to look at the world we live in from a different perspective, which is an amazing feat considering all the better selling games in which your only concern is pointing at some dude and putting a bullet through his virtual presence. If you have some games that have tickled your intellect in new ways, please tell us about them in the comments. I'm sure I'd like to try them out. If dolphins were pink and could speak, would we have interspecial marriage? And what would the Pope say about that?